Okay, it's time to do some research, and I want to teach you a little bit about how to use the Vincennes University online libraries. The View online libraries, for some reason, freshmen tend to try to resist this, but typically, once a student has used the View online library or their university library sources, you get hooked because they make it easy to do research. You're going to have to do research in a lot of classes and a lot of papers, and the online library makes it very easy. We're going to cover some of the basics. If you're watching this right now, you're in a Comp 1 or a Comp 2 course, so we're going to cover the basics that you'll need to know to get through the research requirements for Comp 1 or Comp 2. So we're at our venue.edu, the homepage of Vincennes University. We need to log into your MyVU. So you have to log into your MyVU, and that verifies that you're a student at Vincennes University, so that we can for sure say, okay, this person is allowed to access Vincennes University's online library. So let's go ahead and get into our MyVU. And once you're there, you could, if you want to, through MyVU, you just scroll down. You can get directly into the VU Online Library using that link. You just click there, okay, and you're already in the VU Online Library. You may also be in a Blackboard course where the instructor has chosen to add a VU library tab. So let's just go to one that I know has one of those. And you can access it this way. See, there's a VU library tab. Not all Blackboard courses are going to be like this. So, you have many different ways to get into it, but maybe that's how you can get into yours as well. Regardless of how you get into the VU Online Library, once you're here, there's a lot of different options. The options we're going to cover today will specifically have to do with using a database. So you could use the search bar here. That's going to search all of our databases. You can use the VU Online, the VU1 or the OneVU source. But what I'd like you to do today is to use a database. So we're going to click on Databases A to Z. And as a VU student, you have access to all of these databases. Anytime you go to a university, generally you're going to find that part of your tuition is going to access, going into allowing you to access multiple databases. These databases range in what they focus on. Some of them focus on legal issues, some of them biological issues, business, art, all these different subjects are covered. But today, we're going to go over Academic Search Premier. So it's the second from the top. Now, as a, I do want to say I recommend that everyone looks into these other databases. If you'd like to try to use another database in your Comp 1 or Comp 2 course, that's totally fine. As you get into your major, I would highly recommend you looking into a database that's more geared toward your major. But since Comp 1 and Comp 2 generally are more focused on contemporary issues and general issues, that is not required. I would recommend that you use Academic Search Premier. Now again, it reminds you that if you're not logged in through your MyVU, you need to do so, or you won't be able to get into this database. So you have another option right there if you haven't already done that. Let's go ahead and click on the Academic Search Premier. And when you get into Academic Search Premier, you're going to notice it says EBSCOhost. That's the engine that it uses to search the database. The search bar is just like most search engines that you've used before, just like a Google or Yahoo. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use that today. Now, if you'll notice that down here there are options that you can use to narrow your search before you click search. But we're going to do that on the back end, and I'll show you a little bit more about that here in just a minute. Right now, let's just go ahead and pretend we're going to write an article or write a research paper on Abraham Lincoln. We need to do some research on Abraham Lincoln, so we're just going to do that. Now, you're going to notice that you're going to have a lot of results, 6,214 results. Now, here's the thing. I don't have enough time to sit around and read that many sources. So the nice thing about the VU Online Library and the databases is that they have cataloged what all of these sources are about, the dates that they were published, and a lot of information. So we're going to let the software do as much work for us as we possibly can. So on the left, you're going to see the limiters. So it says limit to. First thing we always want to do is limit to full text. There are some of these results that you'll see a half of an article, or maybe not even a part of the article at all. You'll just see a thing that says if you go to this particular library, you'll find this book on that subject. We don't want that if we're searching online. So click full text, and you'll notice it will whittle it down. We've gone down by 2,000 sources already. So we're making some progress. And so as you go back to the limit to, you're going to notice there's a lot of different options. One of those options is the publication date. Now, when it comes to a publication date, it depends on your subject. If you're writing a report about just a basic informational essay about Abraham Lincoln, it probably doesn't matter when the source was published. However, if it's something that pertains to recent discoveries in, Abraham Lincoln studies, I guess, if it pertains to something that was recently discovered about Abraham Lincoln or his family, then you would want something that's more recent. Now, let's suppose you're doing research on some kind of a technology issue or a legal issue. You're going to want to hone in on the time period that you most likely will find research that's going to really help you. If I were writing an essay about marijuana legalization, there's been a lot written on the legalization of marijuana. However, there's probably I'm going to find a lot more in the past 10, probably 5 or 10 years on what the current state of that debate is, rather than going back to 1990 or to 1957 or something like that. What we're going to do for the sake of this demonstration is we're going to slide this over so that we're looking at sources within the last, let's just do the last 17 years. So what's that going to do to our results? Well, it's gone down. So we have fewer results. Without having to read anything, we've already really whittled down our results. We can keep going. The next thing is source types. Now, this is something I'd like you to try to use whenever you're doing your research with the VU Online Library. If you take a look at these different source types, they are written to different audiences. Now, a magazine is typically going to be written for an audience that is either a general audience, or it's going to be written for an audience that has a specific interest in a field, but maybe not a high level of technical knowledge about that field. So you might have for instance, National Geographic. People are very interested about nature and science and things of that nature, but they may not be scientists. They're interested in it, but they're not necessarily high-level experts in that field. So you're going to find in magazines a level of reading that would be general to somewhat specific to a field. It's not going to be things that are generally going to be over your head. And that's something that's really important to think about when you're researching. When you're researching, yeah, if you use a really great source that is written by a super high-level professional, that's great, only if you understand what that high-level professional says. If you're not an expert in this field, and I'm assuming if you're in Comp 1 or Comp 2, that you're not already a complete expert in that field, maybe you're interested in it, maybe you have a somewhat higher level of knowledge about it, but maybe you don't have a high level of expertise, you're going to do better reading something from a magazine than possibly some of these other options, like a review or an academic journal or a trade publication. If you read a review or an academic journal or a trade publication, the writers for those kinds of publications, they assume that the reader will be an expert in that field. They generally assume a high level of knowledge so that they don't feel like they need to explain anything. They feel like they can use higher level jargon and terminology, and they generally are going to use that really high level stuff to a degree that unless you're an expert in the field, you probably won't be able to get much from that source. Now, on the other hand, you've got a newspaper here. Newspapers are written for a very general audience, so they're going to be the most accessible. However, the problem with a newspaper is sometimes it's so general that you're not going to get a lot of really juicy details. You're not going to get maybe the details that you really need to make this essay work. So right now, I would say the best two things that you can use right now would be a newspaper or a magazine. That's not to say I don't think you should peek in those academic journals. Take a look. Take a look at the academic journals. See what you can decipher. Just know that there's nothing worse than seeing a person quote or use a source and they didn't really understand the source to begin with. So just for the sake of this demonstration, we're going to look at magazines, and that whittles us down to 1,483. And that's still a lot of sources, but it's a far cry from the 6,014 that we started with. Now, I could keep on going. There's a lot of other limiters on the left side. You look at the subject, you can whittle it down by just a specific subject matter covered by that article. Publications, specific publications if you want. Different terms that are found. Publishers, company, national, all these different things that can help you without you actually having to open a single file. Just say, I want things that are going to cover these basic topics. And you can whittle your search down quite significantly without having to do a lot of reading, because your time is valuable and you want to use that reading time to really find quality information. Now, for just the purpose of this video, I just want to take and just let's suppose I've decided, okay, I've whittled it down enough. Now I'm going to start the process of reading and citing. So let's see, the changing face of the GOP. I'm going to look at that. Now, you're going to find that there are two different things that you're going to see, different formats. The first one is HTML format, and that will be shown to you. Look, this one's just HTML format. This one up here, though, is HTML plus PDF. So in HTML, when you look at the HTML text, you're going to see that it's very bare bones, very basic. It's just the text itself. It's still great. It's an excellent resource, but it's just the text itself. If you look at the PDF text, you're going to see something that looks like it came from the magazine or publication. This is sometimes they're scans of the publication. Most of the time, they're directly digital prints, and you can see the pictures. Sometimes there's graphs. Sometimes there's things that are in italics that go along with the picture. The nice thing about PDF text is that you'll see the page numbers, and that comes in really handy when citing things in MLA format. So it doesn't really matter which one you use. Both are fine, but most of the time PDF files are better just because you get a more exact picture of what the source was in the first place. Now, having said that, you can quote, you can paraphrase, you can summarize. You've got to remember that you will need a citation in your works cited page. So on the right side, you're going to see a lot of different options. I'm not going to go through all of these. You can imagine if you want to save this to your Google Drive, you can print these out, you can email these. The one that I would like you to really take note of, though, is the citation tool on the right. Now, a lot of people believe that they have to take shortcuts when citing. Maybe they'll go to bibme.org or a lot of these other citation engines. And I'm not against those things. If you really want to use those things, have at it. Most of the times, if you go to bibme.org or other citation places like that, you'll find that there's a lot of mistakes. That they make a lot more mistakes than they get things right. Now, that is different from Academic Search Premier. If you click here on the citation tool, you're going to see a thing pop up here in the middle. And these are all the different kinds of citation languages or formats that you could use. Now, the one that we use in our course is MLA format. And you're going to see 9 times out of 10, you got a perfect citation here. Now, let's suppose we're going to put this in our text. It's totally fine to just copy and paste this into your works cited document. So I've got maybe I've formatted my paper in Times New Roman and 12-point font. That's the standard that we use in all comp courses. And I am going to put this in my works cited page. So I make works cited. Great. Okay, good. And I left a line again. But if I just do a regular, just a paste, I'm going to need to make sure I do the right kind of paste. So when I right-click, you're going to see the paste options. If you do a regular paste, it's going to be the green slime of death. You don't want that. The middle one is what you want, merge formatting. It's going to be the same formatting that you've already formatted your paper. Now, you're also going to notice that there is a problem, though. Take a look at this versus the citation. You notice the citation they have here, there is a hanging indentation, and that's a required element of all MLA citations. So we just have to work on it. We have to just, okay, let's see, I'll just format this and press delete and backspace. Okay, maybe I'll have to work on it a little bit, but at the end of the day, the nice thing is I can, let's see, I can format this to where it's going to work. Okay, so there's some issues here. All right, let's see here. Tab. I needed a dash here to let us know. Okay, so now I've made it. There's a hanging indentation. Everything that should be italicized is italicized. We've got the things that should be in quotation marks. They're in quotation marks. And the nice thing is right now I have a perfect works cited entry for my works cited page. So all I need to do whenever maybe I'll quote something from this article. Let's see here. I'm going to quote, let's see, I'll get out of this. And I'll just really quickly quote this sentence right here. Okay, great. I'm just going to copy and paste that into this document. Okay, so of course our works cited page is down there. So I'm just going to copy and paste it in the same way. I'm going to merge formatting. And so I've got this. Now, I need to make sure that my quotation marks, if I'm going to do a direct quote, I need those quotation marks around the text. And I might say, let's see, so the name of the author is Tim Stanley. So I would say Tim Stanley states, and then I'd have a comma, and then it goes into the quote. And then once the quote is done, I'm going to take the period out so that I can have a page number. Now, where's the page number? Well, I've got a page range here, 11 to 18. Well, that's why it's usually a good idea to try to use the PDF, because look, at the bottom of the PDF, I know that it's page 16, at the bottom of that page where I took that particular quote. So I'm going to put 16, and I'm going to have a closed parentheses and a period. So I know the page range is right here. I know the name of the author, and I can appropriately cite this in Word in my document. Now, this is just, again, I'd say watch this multiple times. Make sure you understand this. If you have questions on it, feel free to email me. If you're in a course that has a handbook, make sure to take a look at the handbook, because at the end of the day, you're required to make sure that all of this is correct. Purdue OWL, if you just Google Purdue OWL, all of the basic rules that we went over in this, when it comes to citation, you can find there. So hopefully this is a helpful tool for you, and you can use the Vincennes University Online Library in the future with your projects.